The ANC resolved to amend the constitution on expropriation of land without compensation at its policy conference in December. Government officials from the president down have gone to great lengths to reassure the international community that this process would unfold within the confines of the rule of law. A number of international investor roadshows and conferences have been undertaken to some of the major financial capitals of the world over the last 11 months, with the question of land and property rights often dominating the discussions there. Here's a snapshot of what some prominent voices have said when travelling abroad.
We are now looking at how best this can be done. So South Africa has embarked on a wonderful debate of how to effect land reform and how to ensure that the majority of South Africans do get access to land. This process has elicited up to 650,000 proposals that have been put forward to a parliamentary committee, and that parliamentary committee is involved in dealing with this matter right now. And wonderful proposals are coming forward. Wonderful in the sense that a number of corporates that own land are saying, we are prepared to contribute land to this process so that there can be land tenure for the majority of South Africans who've never really owned land.
I would simply say that we have mentioned times and over the respect for the rule of law, and I would suspect that South Africa, being a very civilized, sophisticated country when it comes to the law, the rule of law will also be binding on all. And I would just maybe use a proverb. I have no idea whether it's an African proverb or not, but my recollection is it goes something like, trust grows at the speed of a coconut tree and falls at the speed of a coconut.
The government had made it very clear that if there is any expropriation, it will take place within the constitution. And what has also become very clear for us, that the constitution does provide for expropriation of land, by the way, without compensation, provided that a particular test is met. And that test have been set out by our courts. South Africa is a constitutional democracy, and everything that takes place in South Africa takes place according to the constitution. We have got institutions that protect our democracy, and South Africans over the years have learned how to utilize those institutions to enforce their rights, but also, more importantly, to protect their own democracy.
I would argue that we have at the moment are stabilization measures. I mean, we're dealing with correcting policy mishaps that we have had, encouraging debate on sensitive questions and issues like land expropriation and mining sector, etc., but also ensuring that we begin to have a more constructive dialogue across sectors of the economy.
It has become an invariable question in every meeting where we have gone to, and we understand. But all what we're saying to investors, the worst could have been in a situation where we ignore an emotive issue like land. Listen, this thing moves from 1913. And we adopt a constitution, and our constitution ensures that there is a clause that deals with it, because it's a fundamental issue for either keeping our country together or keeping it apart.
Most of the people that we are talking to clearly understand South Africa. They have some involvement with South Africa. We're very fortunate. There are many foreign companies that have South African subsidiaries. It's one of the legacies of our past, which we must benefit from. And so they have some understanding of the issues. And of course, if you invest in Brazil or in India or China, you also have uncertainty. You can't have everything being absolutely crystal clear.
So with us as a business delegation, we are actually supportive of the fact that even though it's clear in our constitution, especially under Chapter 25, that speaks about property rights, and it talks about three things: restitution, redistribution, and expropriation. But Chapter 25 says where the conditions of fair and equitable have been satisfied, that compensation can be down to zero. So technically, we don't need to even do anything around land. This demonstrates a policy failure on a government that was captured for the last 10 years. This president is now saying it rightfully belongs in the Constitutional Review Committee, where it's going to be done orderly in a constitutionally sound manner. We also know what not to do. This is not going to be a Zimbabwe land grab or Venezuelan land grab.